Travel, to longtime sponsors of SCTEM and great partners of our organization. Today, we are going to be talking about NDC, which has been a hot topic for a number of years, but really kind of getting an update on where things currently are and kind of just resetting and refreshing and bringing everyone up to speed on current landscape and the future. So with that, I will hand it over to Griffin. Please take it away.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. I'm super excited to be here. I'll introduce myself in a moment. I am locked and loaded with more espresso than anybody should ever drink because that's how I roll. I'm super excited to talk about NDC today and kind of reset. But first, before I kind of introduce how we're going to approach this, I would love for Kim and Archie to introduce themselves. First, I'll start with Kim. We always go ladies first. So
Thanks, Griffin. Kim Stringer. I'm the Director of Travel Management Services at the University of Texas at Austin. I have an amazing team. We support all of the travel components and relationships for the university, as well as the travel credit card. And I've been in the travel industry for quite some time, and I've been on the agency side and the corporate side in the last decade in higher ed.
Thank you, Kim. Archie, all you, my man.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. My name is Archie McKinnon. I am currently the manager of our global sales consulting vertical over NDC and brand growth and partnerships.
Great. And I'm Griffin Jaquist, Vice President of Business Operations at Anthony Travel. I'm in my 10th year and super excited to talk about this topic today. And I'll just start with a little bit about Delta and Anthony Travel as it relates to higher ed. Delta, for those that don't know, has been a longtime sponsor of SCTEM, going back to, I'll throw out a name, some Norma Dean, for those that know her and her engagement in this space. And Anthony Travel's been there a long time as well. I'll throw out the name John Anthony, which if you put two and two together, you figure out the Anthony Travel piece. This conversation for us is really about how we can focus on higher ed and support all of you as it relates to NDC. And we asked Kim to join us because I thought what a great way for Kim to kind of represent her peers on this phone call, and for us to ask Kim some questions, ask Archie some questions, Kim asked some questions of us, so that as we move forward with NDC, because it still is a topic, how can we establish a foundation in a practical way? Like there's going to be a rule on this phone call today for Archie, Kim, and Griffin. We're not going to commit the travel sin of talking in acronyms without defining the acronym. And so I already said NDC, so I got to make sure I don't commit that sin, but I'll flip it though real quick. And I'll ask Kim, what is your understanding of NDC? How would you define it?
Well, new distribution capability, NDC, offers a path for suppliers to modernize, personalize, and have control over their offers within their own platform, as well as third-party channels. I also understand that it allows them to understand their customers at the purchase point, and it has a capacity to evolve and expand. At its current stage, it seems like more dynamic pricing, and in some cases lower bundled offers, or sometimes even the same cost as what's in the GDS. It doesn't seem to be today where it intends to be in the long run. Mm-hmm. So that's my choppy description, which is kind of how I see NDC as a bit choppy.
Archie, Kim said she sees it as choppy. You're our NDC expert today. How would you kind of explain that in a practical way? And one for, right, this group's a group of travel managers. They have a lot of travelers to explain what the heck NDC is. So can you kind of talk about how you would define that in a practical manner for us?
Wow. Thank you for the gracious title as expert. I'll back away from that one kindly, humbly, right? But no, I would agree with Kim on just NDC being that new opportunity. It's new technology being introduced into the space that allows us to communicate a little bit better and data transformation, not to get too in the weeds of it, but ultimately allows us to move forward in our distribution of the products that are offered to the customer.
Great. And for the group, I'm going to share some slides that Delta provided throughout as we have this conversation. It's going to be a learning one, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and ask my friends on the screen to make sure that everybody can see my screen. If I could get a verbal as I go to present here. Can you guys see? I saw a thumbs up too. So Archie, as you kind of define NDC and just did that for us, can you just talk a little bit more about this slide and some key points that you would like this group to know and understand?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that new distribution capabilities. First, we say new, right? When we did have our first NDC technically booking was about 14 years ago. So new is relative, but it is the changing of technology, and it's adding value to the current ecosystem of how we have distribution. What we see it at Delta is that it allows us to provide those better products to you that are tailored to you, and you have a better shopping experience as well. But also on the back end, we're here to service you on it. So it can look a lot different just based off of your travel program or what you're looking for your business. But it's that technology that allows for more enhanced and more access and more customized travel options, and be able to just again allow you to shop where you want to shop, but then at the same time adding a better experience for you while you're doing that.
So Kim, as you kind of hear Archie talk about some of that, I actually want to go maybe to not a negative of NDC, but we've had our challenges. This group in higher ed has. Heck, I've been on a panel at SCTEM talking about NDC with all of the airlines before the great debacle of whatever it was, if we all know what I'm referencing without saying names. So Kim, when you think about, like, we just defined NDC, we talked a little bit about it. What are some of the challenges? What's the biggest challenge that you think you faced with NDC as a travel manager?
For me, it's just when I think of NDC, just 1,000 different questions just start popping up in my mind. Even the word NDC, it just, if this is something that's been around for a long time, I think that word's been around for a long time too. It just seems like a hard thing to bring to my stakeholders and to my travelers and give them an elevator pitch, and do they even know what it is? And is it going to be rebranded? Is it going to turn into the primary way we get airfares? It just has a lot of different questions that I find it sometimes hard to make it digestible of where I'll take it next. So that's my biggest challenge, is I'm staying close to the conversations, but it's almost like, where do I bring my travelers into the education piece? How are we going to be talking about it cohesively and collaboratively where it makes sense for everyone?
That's helpful. Archie, of course, I'm going off script, just so everybody knows already. I'm rolling with it because I just heard something I want to talk about. Archie, when we talk about educating travelers, right? How do you think about educating travelers, not travel managers, right? Kim has an agency background. She understands what GDS stands for, Global Distribution System, no sin committed right there. How would you talk to travelers about what this can be as a benefit, or what the benefits are of NDC?
Yeah, no, man, that's such a great question, right? And one of the things that I love what Kim said was education and collaboration. I think you've got to have those hand in hand. What I would tell a customer that didn't have the high level technicality understanding, like myself, just not too long ago, I would probably say, hey, think about NDC, about how there's a myriad of different analogies I would go with, but I would say just think about NDC as the opportunity for you to have a consistent travel experience with price points, transparency, visibility, and overall just a tailor-made approach to you. What is important to you, a shopping experience more important to you? What are you looking for? What is unique about you, and your ability to actually access that product and then have that product work for you and add value for you?
Okay. And we're going to get into some history and talk about some of the nuances and weeds of NDC, but I'm going to put Archie on the spot here, ask him to do it. Archie's like this Griffin guy. I can't believe I signed up for this. So Kim, as we talk about, I want to focus on higher ed. You heard Archie talk a little about NDC from the airline perspective. As a travel manager in higher ed, what is one request or ask you have of Delta as we move forward in this NDC journey to help higher ed?
I think that request would be to know the higher ed space, so that when you talk about that customization, we're customizing what we're offering our higher ed travelers, because that personalization piece makes me a little bit nervous. Like our business traveler may travel a lot personally and get used to a lot of things that they enjoy to travel with in these offerings that may not be allowable in their business sense from a higher ed perspective, depending on the funding type. So if it's as sophisticated as it sounds, then it really needs to be customized in that higher ed space.
Archie has homework.
Great point to make there, Kim, right? What's important to what the travel policy and program to be could be different from the customer. And this is what the beauty I like about our approach is those complexities. As we introduce technology in this space, we've got to be thoughtful. We've got to make a product that can differentiate. Wow. On camera here doing it too, stumbling over it, that can make that distinction between, hey, a travel policy program and also, hey, a customer traveling personally.
And a cost comparison, like how is it going to look for one person versus another person that may be shopping at the same time?
Absolutely.
That's something we're curious about.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, we had a little fun there. Griffin went off script, shocker of the century. Archie, I really liked this slide that you guys have, and I think Kim did as well. And I NDC to me is like, for someone who enjoys talking about these different things, like ATP Co. I don't even airline tariff publishing company, right? Okay, I didn't want to commit my sin. And understanding all of that, yeah, it's great. But then how do we talk about it to this community as well? And so, can you just talk a little bit? This is kind of about the history of NDC and how we got here. And I start with this slide, and then I'll go to your next one because I think it's really cool.
Yeah, awesome. I love this slide too because again, I was somebody new to this space as well. I was on the servicing side in my previous role, so I had to learn about this technology as well. So we have the legacy process that currently exists today, and that's where you have two different channels: the direct and indirect channel. In the direct channel, Delta creates an offer, right? And then that can go, boom, goes to that customer. Now, in the indirect channel, that offer is combined by three factors: inventory, fare, and ultimately the schedule. Now, Delta then sends those offers based off of those three factors to our GDSs. And we didn't commit a sin. We did say, okay, all right. So it sends it over to the GDS. And I love this icon because as it was being described to me, I just thought about a blender. And like, hey, okay, inventory, fares, we blend it up. Whatever that process is, it can get a little, if you have a blender before, it can look a little ugly. But then ultimately, when you pour it out, you've got something new, right? But that offer now has come through that GDS. There is an importance because the GDS does put that inventory and fare and schedule together. And then that offer goes to like an agency or Anthony Travel, right? And then Anthony Travel has that offer that is from the GDS that then goes to the customer. Well, that's how we have it today. And what you see that's different is, I see consistency in those colors. The Delta offer was yellow. The offer that went to the GDS, that comes out of the GDS is red. And that could make a very sore spot for a shopping experience where you're looking to purchase. You're like, well, why is this price here? Why is this price here different? Why is this price here different? I had an opportunity to go out and buy my first air fryer not too long ago. And I had one price inside the store, another price on Amazon, and then another price directly when I went to the manufacturer. I'm a ninja guy, by the way. But I went to that manufacturer. I had three different prices. And as a shopper, I'm like, well, why do I have three different prices? And that's what you see in the legacy process. And that can cause a pain point, some friction, because you ultimately want the best price, right? So now with NDC, with this new technology that's being implemented in this space, it's going to allow for, boom, a more consistent offer with, hey, now in the direct channel, what you see, you're also going to see in the indirect channel. And we're still going to work with our GDS part. We're not cutting out the GDS. That's very vital to, in our opinion, it's very vital to our overall ecosystem of the distribution space. So we're still going to work with the GDS. It's still going to exist, but it's not going to have to go through blending anything. It's going to be a direct conduit with a offer that is consistent to the offer in the direct channel as well. So consistency. It's a different approach with NDC versus the legacy process that we have currently today.
Kim?
And when I see that slide, I think about, from the Anthony Travel perspective, Griffin, how are you guys translating that to our travelers? How are they learning how to communicate this and make it digestible?
Yeah, it's a great question because it's really hard. It just is. We've already talked. It's part of the reason we had the start of the conversation, and what we're trying to do, right, is in partnership with airlines. Like, it's why I appreciate Delta's approach. How can we communicate consistently together about, hey, what does NDC mean? And like when everything happened, where in a couple years ago or whenever that time was, we gave language to our travel consultants that tried to say, hey, this is a new offering in the market, even though it wasn't new, right? It's been around, but for the traveling community, it was new, right? I've heard about NDC since I started Anthony Travel, but the travelers hadn't. So we gave their consultants language that said, hey, this is a new offering in the market. It potentially comes with some service issues because even right now, we still have servicing issues across airlines for the NDC fares that we're booking. But there are some benefits, right? I mean, from a cost perspective, there were benefits. I said I wasn't going to talk about the other airline, and I'm doing it right now. So I broke my own rule, but you have to, right? Sorry to any friends there in Dallas, Fort Worth. I called you friends. But there were benefits, right? But then how do we then explain from a servicing perspective, we can't do what we are paid to do by University of Texas at Austin or any one of our other partners. And like here, this is the struggle for a TMC. In my opinion, in Anthony Travel's opinion, I'll speak for Anthony Travel here.
And so sorry if I'm interrupting, but so how are you, I mean, if I was a traveler and I was told that this is a great offer, but we may not be able to service you all the way through. Yeah. I'd be really reluctant to take that offer. And then also, how are you getting the GDS and the online booking tools to kind of bring this all together for you?
Yeah, it's why you kind of hit on why it's kind of a struggle for us, or I will hit on it as we go. But right, we are working with our global distribution system because we think we've built a business to service all aspects of travel, from integrating with expense systems, duty of care solutions, profile management. That's built around the GDS, right? It is an added cost for us to go to another third party. We quite honestly, Anthony Travel's thought on this has always been, we want to get the best cost. Like our probably Southwest market share, to say another airline, sorry Delta, but like it didn't change from SWABIZ. Like when we booked a ton of SWABIZ when they were outside of the GDS. It didn't really increase because we wanted to get the best offer for our clients, and we thought that was the best offer because we could service it. We can't service it yet fully, and so right, we're working with Sabre, we're working with the airlines, we're pushing Concur because Concur, we're only partnered with Concur from the online booking tool side. But on the online booking tools to make sure that they are getting the content they need in there and that it can be serviced in that way. And it's not perfect, but we also, where can we push to do some of this and drive adoption of it? Because without driving adoption, it won't get better, right? Like we need the higher, some of it we need to figure out in this community, where can higher ed jump in with their TMC, with their OBT, with the airlines, so that we can improve it.
And so we can tell you what offers we'd like to see. That would be important too.
Right? Well, no, and yeah, do you want every Archie knows what offers we want to see. I'm not going to say that though out loud. But Kim, like to that point, how do you manage, like how do you get that into the airline's hands, the travel policy piece, right? We're talking about it, but then how do you make sure the airlines are meeting with you all as well, so that they understand that nuances of your travel policy and what offers go against your policy? Because, right, we have a lot of public institutions on this phone call. That is very different than a for-profit, private, public company. I think we all know what I mean there. So, yeah, I mean, the collaboration. It's why I'm glad we're doing this today. Kim, we talked about that a little bit, right? We need
Yeah. It
for
would probably be easier to build something through this hole and get us to the end stage than it would be to change a policy in a university. So that policy piece is super important.
I saw Archie react to that one. I think Archie learned a little something there.
Yeah, no, and I think that speaks to your, like you said, collaboration, and then what I wrote down earlier, we've got to know your business, right? And that like we've got to know what the intricacies of your business and what drives your business and what you're looking for. And I think this is just what a great opportunity for us to collaborate and work together hand in hand as this new technology takes the forefront.
What a great transition, right?
I
didn't know what the next slide was going to be. So Archie, you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, great transition. Didn't even tee that up, man. Wow, great segue. But we're on a mission to be the trusted retailer for you. But I think trust is what maybe it was broken a little bit. Maybe I'm hearing that, and in this space. And as an end consumer, I spoke on the consistency when I was trying to buy my air fryer. Well, I wanted to build trust. And now maybe trust might be a little strained or broken because new technology has been introduced and maybe not a way that is beneficial. So what our mission was is to build that trust. And we believe that the only way we're going to build that trust for you guys is to collaborate with the existing ecosystem and the stakeholders that are in place right now. We want to be your most trusted airline. So that requires us to work with our corporate travel managers, our CTMs, our GDSs, the OBTs, online booking tools, and of course the TMCs. So we want to make sure that we are working with everybody to elevate the entire ecosystem and to build that trust and know your business just as much as we know ours. So
Archie, we haven't known each other for that long, so I'm going to ask a question here as we try and get more Archie in our lives. How are you and your team going about doing that, building that trust, collaborating? Like, what's your day job, man?
Man, well, my day job consists of this right here, connecting and having these conversations. And I love it because we spoke earlier and you said, you got to learn every day. Man, I wrote that down too. That would be the mantra that I'm going to take back in my team meeting this week. Like, hey, what'd you learn? Every day you should be learning something about you guys, your business. Again, everything's unique. And we all work together in this space to ultimately to get our folks from one place to another safe and on time, right? And so we've got to, as much as we can go out and talk about our mission and how our approach is and tell you about NDC, we've also got to learn about you. So a lot of my day job is all about, and my team adds value in the space where we make sure that we're advocating for you. One, to get this feedback loop, right? We have the mantra at Delta, listen, act, listen. I hear it so much that it's just kind of innate. But no, truly, like we really want to listen first. And then we want to act on the feedback we give. And then we got to go back to listening again. So my team is trying to add value when we're connecting with you guys in this space and talking through, understanding what you're looking for, where can we add value, and then ultimately we act on that. And then we come back to the table with, did it work? Yeah. And then we're going to keep going day in, day out. I don't think this is not going to be, Sarah said it just on Showcase. Again, this is not going to be a revolution. This is going to be an evolution. And it's going to be a journey. That first slide you had on there said it was a selling and servicing transformation, and it's a journey. It's going to be multi-year, and we're going to have to do it hand in hand with all these stakeholders that are on the screen right now.
I have just in the interest of making sure everybody learns one thing today. Who came up with listen, act, listen at Delta Airlines? Do you know that?
Oh man, that's a good one.
Like, I just assume it's Bob Summers who runs sales for Delta, but I just thought about that. So maybe we can have Adam do some research for us, since Adam Smith's on the call, if those know him, to tell us who came up with listen, act, listen at Delta Airlines.
I think I'm gonna try to get some brownie points. I'm gonna give it to Bob. You guys let
Bob.
Oh
wow! I like how you did that there.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it to Bob on that one.
I'm gonna keep moving here.
So again,
No,
sorry,
go.
sorry. Yeah, again, it's all about the trust, right? When and this is we've got to define what better products are. We've got to we can't say, hey, this is a product and then tell you it's a better product. We've got to say, hey, here's the product. This is why we think it's better. What do you think? And then come back and say, well, what are you looking for? And then we have to create that when we make that next level of product, we've got to be able to allow you to shop for that product. Whether you're going in that direct channel, indirect channel, it doesn't matter. We've got to make sure that your shopping experience lines up with that as well. And then, man, we hit it on the head when we said servicing. It is all about servicing. The analogy I always use about this is I gave my mother, thinking I was a great son, for Christmas, an iPhone and an iPad, right? And she had a flip phone. And I thought I was a great son, allowing her to FaceTime me, the grandkids, also watch church and everything else. But I didn't teach her how to use it. And so ultimately the technology was there. It was handed to her. She didn't know how to use it. So you know what she was asking for? Give me the flip phone back. So we've got to make sure, as we introduce this technology, there is a responsibility that we have to also make sure we can service the technology as well.
Yeah, and I want to dive deeper on a couple specifics here. From the TMC perspective, the better servicing, like let's see here, like how are you guys approaching unused tickets, for example? That was a challenge, or still may be a challenge, but how are you approaching unused tickets? And right, one difference or one important thing, like if you have a Delta CSA, right, there are benefits associated with name changes on those unused tickets. So can you talk a little bit about how Delta's thinking about unused tickets and name changes, which was not on our script, just so everybody.
No, and I don't want to take away the thunder. There was a big announcement, Showcase maybe 45 minutes ago in Showcase, about our advancements with unused tickets from Sarah. So can I plug that here? I don't want to take Sarah's thunder away.
We're gonna compromise here in the interest of partnership.
Okay.
So I was busy preparing for this webinar, so I didn't have a chance to watch Showcase. So I need a little nugget from you.
No.
Then we can all watch.
I love it. So when it comes to, I'm trying to okay, where can I walk that fine line? Because I really want you guys to see all the announcements that were made today. So there's been some huge wins as far as unused tickets were concerned, and how we're going to work through those unused tickets on Delta Professional. Let me see if I can read just right here. I'm sorry.
And if you all, while Archie's doing that, if you all don't know what Delta Showcase is, please contact your local airline representative, Adam Smith.
Awesome. So with unused tickets right now, we've worked a solution that's going to be some enhances on the Delta Pro app. Okay. And we're looking to have that release in June, and it's going to be through that Delta Pro system, in which that developed solution that is there is going to be live. And that was kind of the big update, but I know that's a big pain point for you. Sarah she goes a little bit more inside inside Showcase, and of course what we want to do is have those opportunities, have those one-on-one questions with you, so we have our high-level technical folks that have developed that solution, so we can kind of roll that out. So I don't want to spill too much, but at the same time, we know that's a pain point, right? I remember from the servicing capability, like you brought up, it being in global sales support, our sales operation, hearing unused tickets, the manual process that you got to go through, and all the different acronyms I could go in and commit sins by saying it. But ultimately, the update is allow you to convert those unused tickets, and also to be able to use those in a more streamlined manner and process. We're trying to mitigate the headache that comes along with unused tickets. If that's the best I could give you right now.
That sounds like just a non-NDC topic anyway, that Delta's improving on unused tickets. So I'm good with that. It doesn't have to be just NDC.
Well, NDC is playing a role in this. So so you touch on it with a needle, but NDC is playing a role. The folks that built those capabilities are doing that as well. So we're seeing those advancements in just that space. That was like the number one thing that I remember hearing over and over again prior to the NDC team being created. So it's great great to hear that that feedback was acted on. You will see that June 1st on our Delta Pro website.
Great. So Delta listened, they acted, and then they're going to listen some more, right? Okay. Hey, Kim, real quick, as we dive deeper into this slide here, the creation of next generation products, like, do you have any thoughts in mind about what you would want to see NDC be for, like a specific example, what NDC could be for the University of Texas at Austin?
I think just some value add things that are kind of nickel and dime today are seats, you know, getting good seats for our travelers without having to exceed cost budgets to do so. Obviously bundling bags would be wonderful. Priority check-ins are important. But also I think there's things that, you know, we only know what we know exists today. So I'm excited to hear about what are the ideas for the future? What are we looking at possibly, you know, as a better product? What does that look like to Delta? I'm sure you're still formulating some of those ideas, but I'm curious as to what they are.
Yeah, that is a great question. Like I said, we can't say we got better products for you and then we don't really tell you what the products are. Or we define what the better products are without really that's like horrible marketing, right? So, but at the same time, so yeah, seats, the difference, you know, the seats that we have, the access to lounges, and I wrote down bags, and
Whoa, what are we talking about bags for?
I wrote it down. So it is getting that feedback, like you said, right? Knowing your business. Like right now, I know those are three things that I can go back and when we're talking about better products, say, well, we need to talk about this and customization. Ultimately, our better products are going to be defined by what we're looking at to put out for a next generation product with all the amazing things that we have access to. I think I would be stepping on Adam's toes on that one when I start rolling that out. But just knowing what is important to you and making sure that that product is offered and that product availability is there for you as well.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, Kim, you talked about some things that, you know, in theory might go against your policy, but you said the word bundle, right? And Archie, like from sitting from the TMC perspective in conversations, we're talking to travel managers at both, you know, at public institutions, and it changed a little bit on the private side, but that travel policy is something to navigate always with that, right? I mean, you've navigated everywhere, but, you know, does bundling allow for you to navigate that different policy exception or whatever it may be? But the education on that is so important
For sure.
from the airlines, because the challenge that we run up against, right? We love Delta trying to differentiate themselves. Delta, that's great. I love all the airlines trying to do that. But then how do we make sure we're doing an apples to apples comparison, which is where the GDS comes in for us from a travel management company perspective? Like Delta's offer may be X and another airline may be Y. What is the better value? Not the lowest cost. I would encourage this group here on higher ed. And I know cost is very important, but it can be better value too. So.
And how do you report on it?
Yeah, man, I love it. I love it. This is all good stuff right here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that next slide, I can kind of go into a little bit more.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and this is where I think we can address, right? We have again, you're going to see later on this year a more detailed, right now, I say we're at cruising altitude, this high level timeline where we're working with those tech solution and design partners. Because you're like, all right, Archie, it's new technology, but like, what does that mean? Are you just building it? Well, again, when I was talking about collaboration and the entire ecosystem, we had to find some solution design partners because Delta's not a tech company, right? So we had to partner ourselves to make sure that we can execute on these things. So our backbone is listen. This is a high level cruising altitude, 35,000 feet. later on in the year, you're going to get a little more toward, you're going to see our approach, right? We're going to be at 15,000 feet. Then ultimately our wheels are going to come out, just to keep it on the airline side. And we're going to be preparing for landing in this NDC space. But this high level in the fourth, you might be saying, well, Archie, why is there a fourth quarter of 2020 or 23? Well, that's when we started sourcing feedback from all our industry partners, right? And seeing where everything was going on in the space. Then the second half of 2024, I got hired in this space. And then I started my education process. And when we were doing that and collaborating with the tech partners, here are our tech partners that were our best collaborators. And we started off with Google, right? So you might be saying, well, why Google, Archie? Well, Google just allowed us with their huge APU ability to aggregate so much data. And it's just been a great partner to take all this data that we have and be able to process it, right? So that allows us to construct better offers. You talked about bundling, you talked about all these different things that are nuanced to what you need in your product, that or the tickets that you need or the offerings that we need to provide for you. Well, all that data that Google and IATA allow us to do is to create those direct channel offers and also off the same offers that we can put into indirect channels that goes to the GDS. We work with Exilia to facilitate the onboarding for all those indirect consumers as well. Everybody's going to plug into Exilia. That'll plug into our internal API capabilities, and that allows us to get those offers to the market faster and also bring NDC faster to the market. And then we have ARC and IATA. Well, ARC is going to allow us ultimately to take those different forms of payment, right, and settlement, those unused tickets and different payments, and make sure we can streamline those processes as well. So not to go too far in the technical side of it, that allowed us to work with those different partners. They've been great partners to work with. And then ultimately, we believe that these partners are going to help us with your visibility, help us with your data transparency and consistent data that you're going to see and reporting, to make sure you're adhering to your travel policy and cost, and ultimately duty of care, right? We all have to have duty of care. Safety is paramount. Anytime you have a high level situation in this industry, you got to make sure you know where your travelers are and how to get in contact with them and everything that's going on with weather, schedule changes, or anything like that. So we believe these tech partners are great partners to work in the space to allow us to carry out our mission. And then you can see in 2025, that's where we're trying to bring these iterations and everything that we've completed and work on into the ecosystem and introduce new products. Again, I might be stealing some showcase thunder, but you will see some small iterations this year in 2025 that we're going to bring to market with our NDC solutions. I can tell you it's going to be a lot different in the approach of some other airlines. We're going to bring ours on, and we're going to bring it on in a responsible way, a thoughtful and intentional way. My team is here to walk you through that education, where we're at, how it's going to come, how it can affect you. But we're not pushing you to any kind of direct or indirect channel. But we will be here as those small iterations start to come out. And again, when those wheels come out upon landing, we'll still be here listening and acting on everything. And then in 2026, we're and the servicing capabilities are got to be on par with our iterations. So we're going to enable that omni-channel servicing at scale. And then we're going to go right back to listening and acting as well. We're going to start that process all over and putting our continuous improvement hats on and going back and seeing what works in the industry and what doesn't work in the industry and where we need to make adjustments.
Yeah, Archie, I want to dive into a couple of things there
Sure.
that you said, and Kim, help me as you see fit. Well, first, my man Archie, you create a couple of sins. IATA, International Air Transport Association, ARC, Airlines Reporting Corporation, and what the heck is an APU?
I am so sorry about all these different acronyms I run out on. I kind of geek out. All right, so I'm sorry about that.
You're
good. The APU is, in simplest terms, it's the way that Google is powered, and how Google is operating. Yeah,
You're good, man. Hey, we're having a little fun.
Yeah, I'm
You know,
terrible. Sometimes I get excited and run through these, and I'm thinking about, oh man, did I say this? Did I say that? But yeah, so the Arc and IATA, those two great companies, and you nailed it, Griffin.
yeah, we're good. I'm having a little fun
Oh,
because
no worries. Okay.
I like
So
to stir the pot.
is that three?
Yeah, we're good. We got all three. We got all
Okay.
three.
I was shooting for 5 sins, so I only did 3. So that's good.
So, but you talked about two other things that I want to hit on. Right? Explain how Delta. It seems like Delta wants to do this in partnership and collaboration. That has been clear. Griffin, and I'm going to guess this community wants to see that in practice. So, Archie, I would challenge you or ask you to tell us how you are going to engage with the higher ed community moving forward. Again, I'm putting you on the spot, my man.
Let's do it.
Moving forward, so that they feel that we're all doing that, or so that we all feel that we're doing this journey together and not against one another, which has been the case so far historically.
Right. That's definitely the challenge. I'm going to lean on Adam,
Yeah.
not to call him out, but I'm going to lean on Adam. And my team is here to support that conversation that you guys are having with Adam and Adam's team. My team is here for additional support, additional conversations, whatever you feel needed that is missing. We're going to keep this feedback loop going. And I can promise you, my team is going to be your advocate when we are sitting in these different meetings every day and we are talking about, well, hey, hold on, let's raise our hand here. Well, the higher ed community is saying this, because that's important to us, like that you were heard. My team is created of 3 different other consultants, and we are dispersed. So I've got all 3 of them are out right now traveling to their different regions and respective customers. So we support Adam and we lean on Adam as well. Hey, what are you hearing? What do we need to take back? So you have our guarantee there that the conversation and the feedback loop has started, and we're going to be here throughout the whole process.
Yeah, and I would say one other thing that we're picking on Adam. There is another Adam out there. Shout out to Eric Holyfield, that does work in this space as well a little bit. Not to sell him short, because he's been a long time SCT attendee as well. And I love hearing that. And I would say, right, like we do have a group on here that may not have a full relationship with Delta that allows them to have an Adam or someone else like that, but lean on your TMCs in that case. Like I'm saying this to the community. Anthony Travel is talking to Delta about this stuff, right? Other TMCs as well, and lean on them to be your advocate if they are not your main carrier. Like you're all not in Delta markets. I understand that. We got a lot of schools based in Texas and California or wherever. So that would be my thing. And then Kim, I have a yes or no question for you. I'm going to have Archie hit on it. Would it be a benefit if, let's say, Anthony Travel booked an airline ticket for you, Kim Stringer, and you're traveling, right? But then you needed to make a change because something happened at the airport, and you did that directly with Delta. Would it be beneficial if Delta systems and Anthony Travel systems talked to each other better so that we could see those real-time changes?
Yes, that's probably going to happen on a mobile app. And yeah, I would agree. Yes.
Yeah. Is NDC going to be able to help with that at all as we move forward for Delta?
Hey, this is the one thing you can quote me on here, right? You guys can walk away and quote me on. Yes, that's what NDC is, that in one of those small enhancements, right? To make sure our systems are talking to each other. And I know I leaned on Adam and there's Eric, but yeah, we're also having that conversation with you, Griffin, and there's advisory boards and so many opportunities that we get to be a part of the conversation, and that's how we're gonna make sure that even things like what Kim just said, we're acting on.
Great. Well, that is the end of the slides there, which doesn't mean we're done by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to stop sharing here and pull up just a couple notes to ask a few other questions. And I would encourage anyone at this point, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And I believe Rebecca or Kelsey is going to help me navigate, but I'll do my best as well.
You don't have to multitask. We've got you under control.
I appreciate that, Rebecca, more than you know. Thank you. So I guess like kind of when I think about what we heard today, Kim, I'd love for you to kind of share your thoughts on what you think University of Texas at Austin's NDC journey will be like moving forward, or any ideas that you have or things that you are like, oh, hey, Archie, you better come meet with me now when you're in Austin in a couple of months or whenever that is. So I'd love to get some thoughts on you just about what this looks like for you guys moving forward.
I love how this is laid out and how thoughtful it all is. I wish it was like that across all of our suppliers, and so creating that landscape where we're all kind of moving the same direction would be ideal. It probably won't happen that way. Everybody's going about, their journey differently. So it's important for me. I certainly don't have NDC figured out. I do know it's here, and so it's important to keep moving forward. And I'll be honest, I've kind of, put it up on the shelf when the other priorities came. And so it really is time to dust it off, and stay open and curious and collaborative as we go. Based on my learnings through this, I think that, we did create just a general NDC readiness playbook for UT Austin to kind of map out how we're getting there. So it's time for me to do a self-check on where we stand on, all of those different components, and maybe map out some timelines, and then really just work with, all of our vendors to be prepared for the conversations and get our stakeholders educated and get our travelers educated, and advocate for a different name for this.
I have heard that feedback from Kim Stringer loud and clear about the different name. And I'm laughing to myself because if we don't, I believe I'm correct when I say this. So learning something new today, or for everybody, if they don't, that's an IATA term. Like they came up with this 14 years ago. And it's like, yeah, it's turned into this, it's like a brand now in a way and people have thoughts and feelings about the brand of it. Some very negative in a way, which is a disservice to people trying to improve it and what we're trying to do right in this community and improve the outcomes and experiences for our travelers. I don't know.
It doesn't really speak to the sophistication that's really happening when we're in an environment where technology is advancing. I mean, when we see new distribution capability, like somebody's like, yeah, and because it's happening everywhere in other spaces. So.
Yeah. For sure. I always joke around and say it's the 3-letter acronym that we treat like a 4-letter word, because you say it and everybody looks at you like, they respond to it. So yeah, I think, and what we try to say is the selling and servicing transformation. Here at Delta, it's a little bit easier. You can't say it 3 times fast very well, but you can think of it as selling and servicing transformation, versus maybe that 3-letter swear word of NDC.
By the way, am I not seeing any questions in the chat, Rebecca?
Correct. I haven't seen anything submitted thus far.
I am disappointed. I maybe even a little too blunt at times, but you get Griffin when you get Griffin. Enough of you know me. We'll be having some conversations, friends, about the lack of questions. But I got one more for Archie. Oh, look at Crystal sucking up to me right now. For those that know Crystal at Anthony Travel, Archie, you're getting a little bit introduced to higher ed today, and I would love to hear from your perspective, what is one key thing that you heard from Kim or me or Adam throughout the conversations we've had preparing for this webinar, and also today, that will help Delta with your NDC journey?
Yeah, wow. There's so many things that I wrote down. But I would say my biggest thing is I really want to know your business. And I think Anthony Travel is going to help me know your business a little bit better, work with partnering. And of course, thank you, Kim, for bringing to the forefront a lot of the things that make your business unique. I think that is the biggest opportunity here. So I would say education. Higher education, the one thing I take away is education, maybe that sounds a little too corny or canned response, but no, I need to educate myself more on your travel needs. And I'm just really looking forward to the collaboration with Anthony Travel and the rest to work on that education piece.
Thank you. So this is somebody I would call on. We do have a question, and this one's for you, Archie.
Yeah.
Hailing from South Bend, Indiana, as well as working with Anthony Travel. Liam McCauley asked, "How will Delta look to intentionally engage with higher ed?" Like, I'm going to help Liam here. I want one specific action that Archie and team are going to take in partnership with Adam, in partnership with another TMC. I don't care. I care about higher ed. So what's one specific action you all plan to take?
I see right now, biggest opportunity action that my team will take. You will see this connection. We're going to connect with you guys.
Okay.
There's no way around it. We have to do that. We have to establish that connection. And Liam, I wrote your name down. So if it's one way or another, we are going to make sure we connect.
And Archie, we connect amongst ourselves. We're, in the higher ed space. And so I think maybe a collaboration effort with connecting with all of us at the same time would be good. It always spurs up some great conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. We've got to have more connection, more conversations, and that's how we're going to move forward.
So this is great because we're going to give Adam some homework too, because Adam has obviously got Archie to join us for this call, given Adam's engagement at SCTEM, Adam Smith at Delta, for those that don't know, and make sure Adam holds Archie accountable too. We're gonna have a little fun. Yeah, see, there he goes. He loves it. Okay. Liam, thank you for the question. If there are no other questions, I would say the following. One, Delta Airlines and Archie, thank you. Kim Stringer, thank you for deciding to do this with us when I just came to you with this weird idea or crazy idea, like, hey, Kim, let's talk. And I really hope that at the end of this or throughout this hour today, everybody learned at least one thing new. Like NDC, or whatever new name that we come up with, so Kim's happy, is changing all the time. And it's not changing the same way at each airline, right? And so that presents challenges for this community and everyone in travel, to be honest. But it's always a reminder to me with this group that it is so collaborative. And like, yeah, Anthony Travel, like, let's be clear, we don't have it all figured out yet. And I don't think anybody does, at least not that I'm aware of. And so to Kim's point, and one of the things that in some messages Kim and I exchange about this is making sure we're being open and collaborative about it. And so I appreciate Delta's approach. I appreciate Delta's engagement in higher ed. And I love the fact that for those with Delta CSAs or do a lot of business with Delta, they have a new friend, Archie. But anyway, Kim, Archie, thank you again. SCTEM, thank you for the opportunity from Anthony Travel's perspective. And thank you to everyone who joined today. And Crystal, you didn't have to suck up to me.
Thank you.
So just to wrap things up this afternoon, again, thank you to everyone who took time out of your afternoon to attend. We did have just one final ask of you before you wrap up today's call. As we know that there's a lot of uncertainty in the travel and higher education landscape right now as it relates to federal funding and decisions getting made in DC and how that is all affecting our respective institutions. As a representative of the board, we are, of course, working hard to plan for our upcoming conference in September in Atlanta. Just as a reminder, that is scheduled for September 21st to the 24th. And what we would just love to do is take a quick poll for those who joined us. I'm putting a link in the chat, and I'm also going to share my screen and put a QR code up on the page that you can scan. And we just want to kind of get a pulse check and see how people are feeling about being able to attend this year's conference. So if you are gung-ho and you're super excited and you can't wait for that registration link to be available to you, obviously the yes. We understand that there could be a lot of people selecting unsure. And then if you already know that there's been changes at your university or with funding that aren't going to allow you to attend, of course, select no. But again, just so that we can best plan for this year's conference and kind of get a gauge on this year's attendance, that would be very, very helpful to us.
This is really cool that you get to watch it live, Rebecca. Like
I know, right?
I am like,
And
with
I can't take credit for this. All the credit to Amanda Lash, who suggested this platform to use for polling. So it's very
who
cool.
cares about NDC?
But once you have voted, you're welcome to go ahead and wrap up and hang up on our Zoom call today. But again, thank you to Delta, thank you to Anthony Travel, and thank you to Kim Stringer, and specifically Griffin and Archie. We really appreciate your guys' expertise and sharing of knowledge with our community. And we can't wait to see kind of what the future holds for whatever that new name is going to be.
Indeed, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much, guys.
Yep.
This
Thank
is
you.
really educational and impactful, and I'm looking forward to so much more.
Sounds good. Well, I will leave the QR code up for now, but again, we'll sort of sign off for the day and thank you for joining us.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.